Alright, so to do the next round of problems on this next part, we have to be very aware of the fact that the inverse cosine, the inverse arctangent, the inverse sine, they represent angles. So to kind of break this down, what we're looking at, right, this part right here, how about we just call it theta? Theta is the inverse cosine of 1/2. And so with that, we are basically trying to figure out what the sine of theta is. Of course, to find that exact value, what I need to know is what's that angle, because once I know the angle, we can use our unit circle and we can essentially find the exact value. So how do I find the angle? Well, here's what we know about it, right? The angle that's inside of here is the arc cosine of 1/2. Again, if you want to rewrite that, we're talking about the cosine of theta being equal to 1/2. That's, I think, we're kind of used to seeing that. So what angle value, again, we're restricted, right, from 0 to pi, right, in quad 1 and quad 2, what angle makes cosine equal to 1/2? Well, that's 60 degrees, all right, in the restriction that we have. There's more, right, it's 60 and 300 degrees, but because we're invoking the arc cosine, it's only going to give us the 60-degree answer. And so that means, coming back up to here, we're trying to find the sine of 60. And we know that to be the square root of 3 over 2. All right, so that is how I would do that one without a calculator, right? Just using our unit circle and our understanding of what an arc cosine and all that stuff is doing. So for the next one, we're talking about the our angle value. How about I call it beta? Our beta is the arctangent of 0. All right, and so we're basically going to eventually try to find what's the cosine of beta here. So we got to figure out what beta is. So this is basically telling us that the tangent of beta is 0. And so in our restriction, right, where do we know, right, tangent to equal to 0, right, in our restricted from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2? Well, that happens when beta is equal to 0. Right? This, again, there's other values, but that's the value that we're going to use. I think, you know, pi and all that other stuff, but pi, right, doesn't fall in the restricted domain that we have for our tangent. So using that, we're going to bring it up here, we're talking about the cosine of 0. And of course, what do we know the cosine of 0 to be? We know that to be 1. So that value comes out to equaling 1. So the next one, again, if we keep playing this game, you know, we're talking, how about I call that alpha is the inverse sine of negative square root of 3 over 2. So we're effectively trying to find what's the tangent of alpha. So if I find alpha, I can get my work done. So for this, we're talking about the sine of alpha equals the negative square root of 3 over 2. And so again, we're restricted. So we're restricted from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. We're negative, so that means I am in quad 4, but with a negative rotation. So in this case, that means that alpha, right, the value that's going to give a negative square root of 3 over 2, right, would be negative 60 degrees. So we're looking basically at the tangent of negative 60 degrees. If you wanted to, we can use the odd, right? So this means this is negative the tangent of 60 degrees. And of course, for 60 degrees, we know that this is the square root of 3 over 2, right, over 1/2, and it's negative. The halves cancel out, and we're left with negative square roots of 3. All right, and so there would be our exact values. Basically playing around with the angle. The angle's given in terms of its arc cosine, arc tangent, and arc sine, and we're very aware of their restrictions, and using those restrictions to find out the angle that we have. And then once I find out the angle, then it's off to the races in terms of doing all of my work. All right, so there you have it. We're going to do another tougher round of these I call these compositions of trig functions. I should have started that off. We're composing a trig function with a function. We're putting one function inside of another. Classic composition. Another round, lots tougher in the next video, as you will see. But basically the same idea. Use the fact that the arc tangent, the arc cosine, or the arc sine just represents an angle. Let's go find that angle and then come back and do our work. We'll do that some more in videos coming soon.